Hello everyone, and welcome back to Embroidery Tutorials. We are currently stitching Circle 5 on my 90 variation chain stitch sampler, so if you find these stitches or this pattern or embroidery as a whole fascinating and you want to follow along, go pick up a pattern in my Etsy shop. That link is in the description. We've explored every well-known variation of chain stitch, from lazy daisy to fly to feather, and now we're getting into some of the truly crazy ones. These stitches may not be as well known, but I promise none of them are as daunting as they seem, and it feels so good to figure them out, practice them a few times, and get this awesome complicated texture in the end. Today we're going to learn two of these lesser known and super cool stitches: Spanish knotted feather stitch, yep, that's the whole name, and bonnet stitch. Let's start with some Spanish knotted feather stitch. This will be sewn on the remaining half of your second triple row of lines here. You can start from either side, but I would recommend sewing from right to left along with me until you figure this one out, and then you can start playing around with the direction. Now this texture or pattern looks really complicated at first glance, but actually all it is a series of twisted chain stitches going back and forth in a zigzag pattern. So I'll draw some lines to show you. Our first twisted chain stitch will go on this angle, followed by one that comes out of the center and goes down, then another one out of the center going up, and so on. Start by coming up on the outer or bottom line just a bit away from the start of your section, then go back down in that far corner. We are using the slide method of stitching on this one, so before pulling your needle all the way through, come back up on the top or inner line, creating a diagonal with your needle. That original entry point should be about halfway between the 2 points you're making now. Wrap your thread over the tip of the needle and back under towards you to create the twist in the chain loop, then pull your needle all the way through. So simple so far. Now you're going to go back into the fabric on the middle line, right between the legs of your first twisted chain. Again, using that slide method, come up on the bottom line, creating that diagonal, then wrap the thread over the tip of your needle and back under. Pull your needle through to make a second twisted chain stitch. Your stitches always start from the middle line now, so go back down right between the legs of the last stitch, sliding your needle out on the top line. Wrap the thread again, pull through, and carry on just like that all the way to the end. You can stitch this Spanish knotted feather stitch all the way to the end of the section, then just tack down that last stitch to finish it off, but since I ran out of thread here anyway, I'm going to try out some closed Spanish knotted feather stitch. Yes, the name can always get longer. Closed just means that I'm going to do the same stitch pattern with less open space between it, which will create a tightly braided band. If you want to give this a try, follow the same instructions, but make everything closer together. It can get a little difficult to find the proper spot on the middle line between the legs of those twisted chains, so using a larger thread might make this closed version a little easier. It'll certainly give some killer texture. Next up, let's do some bonnet stitch. This is one of 3 stitches we will be doing on our outer double ring here, so make sure you have split it into thirds in advance. I'm going to place it right up next to my maidenhair stitch. It's best to work this stitch from right to left. Come up on the outside ring, right at the starting corner, and then go back down slightly to the right on the inner line and back up on the inner line 1 stitch length away. Slide the needle from right to left under the stitch you've just created, wrapping the thread around it once. Then go back down right at your first point. This is the chain part, so hold some tension on that loop on top of the fabric and come back up 1 stitch length away, going through the loop with your needle. As you can see, you're basically creating an R shape here, albeit upside down. You can play around with your stitch lengths, but I generally do the looped section a little longer than the legs sticking out here. To move on, we will go back down on the inner line, once again creating that ever so slightly diagonal stitch, then back up 1 stitch length away. Slide under that straight stitch once more, and this time you want to make sure that you're going down on the outer line, but also catching this thread right here. So your needle goes under that thread, then through the fabric. This means the loop you are creating will pull that thread forward, putting a small straight stitch in between each of these R shapes. Once again, we're going down on the inner line and back up, wrapping the thread around that straight stitch once, going under the upper thread and through the fabric while holding some tension, coming up 1 stitch length away on the outer circle and through the loop you've created. And that's it. It's a super easy pattern to pick up and it looks fabulous as an edging stitch. Carry on to the end and then tack down that last loop to finish it off. That's all for today. Only 2 more stitches to go on circle 5, and then we will enter the whole new realm of circle 6. It's every stitch for itself there, complete mayhem. You'll love it. I hope you enjoy learning these 2 lesser known stitches. I know these textures may look super complex and a bit intimidating, but once you break them down into a couple easy steps, anyone can master them. If you have any questions or trouble with these, don't hesitate to leave a comment and we will work it out together. Otherwise, I will see you next time for 2 more gorgeous edging stitches that you will surely love. Thanks so much for watching.